Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Finance-Auditing Committee meeting of March 27th, 2025. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and if we can have a roll call, please.
Good morning. Director Juche?
Here.
Hernandez?
Here.
Maston?
Here.
Vice Chair Parr?
Present.
Chair Rabbit?
Here.
And President Cochran?
Here. All you?
No. You have a quorum, in fact, a full house, but you are not a committee of the whole.
And Dennis is here.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh. Did I skip you? My apologies.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And we'll move on into item number 3, which is ratification of previous actions by the Auditor Controller. The PFM report starts on page 7. We do have Monique here with us again. Thank you, Monique, for being here.
Morning.
Good morning.
It's nice to see everybody.
She's here to update us on the chaos.
I didn't say that. No. I'm going to talk about 4 things this morning. I'm going to talk about interest rates, fiscal policy, consumer sentiment, and market outlook. The first thing I want to say is that the Fed did meet for its March meeting, and they kept the federal funds target rate in its current range, which is 4.25% to 4.50%. Now, this is, in some ways an expected but also notable policy move by the Fed because, they were on a path to cutting rates. Them not cutting rates this time is an indication of where they see things currently in the market. And that is, we really need to wait and see what these policies do to the inflationary environment and to the economy. I will note that they did continue to communicate to the market that they are still expecting to cut rates 2 times this year. So they are expecting a further 0.25% rate cuts in 2025. But as we all know, that hinges on a lot of things, which brings me to fiscal policy. Now, we have been in a bit of a tariff war the past couple of months with the administration proposing tariff policies, pulling those back, suggesting more tariffs, hesitating to implement those. Most recently, the administration has announced a significant tariff on automakers, about a 25% tariff specifically. Now, this is notable because auto sales are, large consumer purchases, a very heavy expense for many American families. And this policy in particular has raised a lot of concerns about growth going into the rest of the year. These tariffs are expected to be implemented starting next week, starting to be assessed on April 3rd. And what's notable about this is that this doesn't necessarily only impact autos that are coming in whole from other countries like Japan or Germany. A lot of U.S. automakers also import parts for cars that are made in the United States, and those are also going to be assessed at tariff. And so the current expectation is that the price of autos in the United States could rise by $5,000 to $12,000 per automobile. So that in and of itself is significant. Now, the tariff policy is playing into the things that the Fed considers. In their recent statement after holding rates steady, they suggested that the impact on prices or on inflation specifically could be transitory, which means that it could impact inflation in the short run but not persist. Now, the Fed has a little bit of an egg on its face. The last time they used transitory language during the COVID and supply chain issues, and we all know that inflation environment persisted for quite some time after that. The issue with the tariff and the transitory language from my point of view is that prices are going to increase. And perhaps the rate of change, which is really what inflation measures, will slow down in the future, but the net level of prices will continue to be high in general. And I think that is going to have an impact on consumer sentiment, which brings me to my next point. Where is consumer sentiment? Well, it's quite frankly very poor in the current market. Consumers are concerned about the economy, and they are concerned about higher term prices in the near term because of the tariff policies. Now, why is consumer sentiment so important? Consumer sentiment is very important because it's a key driver of growth in the economy. Consumer sales, consumer spending represents about 70% of our GDP, our gross domestic product, which is how we measure economic growth in the country. And so that brings me to market outlook. How has market outlook been? Essentially, the expectation that we are going to see a recession, the probability of that has risen significantly. So we're looking at higher prices, higher inflation. We're looking at consumer confidence tanking, probability of a recession increasing, our growth outlook declining. And that has led to the, phrase stagflation being used about our economy. So what is stagflation? That is a condition that exists when you have high unemployment. You probably saw Health and Human Services just announced a 10,000 person layoff in that department. So high unemployment, high inflation, and low growth. And that is what is staring the economists in the face when they look at the projections from the Fed. In some ways, the Fed forecasts were stagflation light in terms of what they were considering for the unemployment, inflation, and growth numbers. And so that is something that is, top of mind and of concern. Now, I will point to the district, and I've summarized my market comments. I'm going to turn to your packet and just a couple of things to point out here. If you go to page 10 of your packet, you'll notice that interest rates across the board month over month have declined. The 2-year fell 21 basis points from the end of January from 4.20 to 3.99 and it essentially rests in that range today. This is the market reacting to the economic growth forecasts, reacting to the sense that there may be higher inflation, which means that we may have to continue to sort of create higher rates to manage the economy or lower rates in the future to, spur the economy into action. There's just a lot of uncertainty going on in the market right now. I'll also turn your attention to page 18 of your packet. And I like to rest on this page because I think the way that we are managing the district's portfolio has been, and quite frankly always will be, with risk mitigation strategies in mind. And what does that mean? It means we're looking to protect the district's assets in any and all different environments. The key way we do that is by diversification. You notice the myriad number of different issuers in the district's portfolio, the colorful sector allocation pie chart at the top. We're really trying to make sure that you're well diversified and insulated from a lot of the risks through the industries we have you invested in and the types of bonds that we're purchasing on your behalf. Another thing that we're doing is we're ensuring that you have a good income base. We have taken advantage of the higher interest rates that have been available to us the last year, and that's provided you with a good income base. And then lastly, we work very closely with your staff to ensure you have adequate liquidity in the portfolio. So from our point, all of the things going on in the market do impact sort of future income projections for your portfolio, do impact investor sentiment, but our strategy has always been risk mitigation with your protection of principal in mind first and foremost. And we think that you're really well positioned to weather the storm, despite the fact that we're in a very different economic environment than we were in this time last year. I'll pause there and see if there are any questions.
Thank you, Monique. Any questions of Monique as we move forward? We appreciate the work. We certainly appreciate the risk mitigation. Thank you there. To your comments regarding the consumer sentiment, I don't know if it's me or if it's, it just seems like of late, the consumer sentiment is, there's always been the consumer sentiment and then the actual economic data and facts. These typically would overrule sentiment, but it seems like it's always going the other way around now, where the sentiment really drives the economy. And it's so important to have, to maintain balance in both and that people feel what they feel. I watched that Thornburg from Beacon. He calls it miserableism, where people are just, no matter what the economic says, it's like everything's going to hell in a handbasket, and here we are.
Yeah.
So interesting times again. Anything from anyone? Thank you, Monique.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. With that, this is an action item to ratify, and I'll see first if there's any public comment on this item.
There's no one in the room. Justine, anyone on the line?
We have no speakers for this item. Thank you.
Justine on the line.
Hearing none.
We'll bring it back. We'll assume that's a no, and we'll move on. So the action in front of us is ratification of previous actions by the auditor controller. And I'll look for a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second, and we can do voice votes, correct?
Yes.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, please say no. Hearing no opposition, that does pass unanimously with all those present. Moving on to item 4A, which is a budget increase in the fiscal year 24 to 25 bus division capital budget for project 2435, which is the D2 dispatch and fuel island building roof rehabilitation. This was heard earlier today, and I'll just look to my colleagues if there's any questions. And check once again to see where Justine is and if there's any public comment.
There's no one in the room. Justine, any public comments online?
There is no public comment, and I apologize. I believe our network is a little laggy, which is why you didn't hear me say that earlier. We have no public speakers. Thank you.
Thank you, Justine. With that, I'll look for a motion to approve item 4A.
So moved.
Motion and a.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Again, we'll take a voice vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Please say no. Hearing no opposition, that does pass unanimously with all present. Moving on to item 5A, which is approve actions relative to the Low Carbon Transit Operations Program, or LC-TOP. And Jennifer.
Good morning. The item before you today is the LC-TOP, which is state-funded program to reduce greenhouse emissions. This is your annual kind of approved for actions. We've got 3 proposed actions for the 24-25 submittal. This one actually is about $2.9 million. It's a population-based funds that we get from Marin Sonoma as well for our CARB compliance. So this year we're asking for the MV Mendocino replacement project to put a submission in for $2.9 million. That will go towards the CARB compliance with those Tier 4 diesel engines they've been looking at. And then the recommendations for 2 and 3 are just that we're going to certify and comply all our conditions and the documents that we need to submit to do that grant application. Happy to take any questions if you have them on this item.
I'll look to my colleagues. Any questions? With that, I'll look for a motion, or actually I'll ask if there's any public comment on this one.
There's no public comment.
With that, this is to approve the actions relative to the LC-TOP. I'll take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Again, a voice vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Please say no. Hearing no opposition, that does pass. Thank you, Jennifer. Appreciate that. Moving on to item 6, which is approved establishment of a pilot program for interagency no-cost or reduced-cost transfer credit on the Golden Gate Transit Bus and Golden Gate Ferry and related actions. And Vaughn, please take it over.
Good morning, Chair Rabbit, members of the committee. This is something that's coming back to you after we set a public hearing at the January meeting for a public hearing in February to greatly improve the transfer credits to riders throughout the Bay Area region. For example, currently we have a 50-cent transfer credit to and from Uni. Under this pilot program, that will increase to $2.75, which is a full Muni fare credit for our passengers going in the southbound direction. It will also open up opportunities for transfer credits that we don't have currently with agencies such as BART, WIDA, Samtrans, and Caltrain. Some of the transfer credits will not change. In the North Bay, we have had a transfer credit with the Sonoma County operators for $1.50 for many years. The stipulation of the program is it will be one local fare credit or up to $2.75 for longer distance regional service. So that one wouldn't change. We've had that one in place many, many years. Per the rules of the board, we went through a public process. This is a fair change that would be reflected in our rules of the board, even though it's a pilot at the outset. We received 2 public comments in favor of this proposal. Both of those were existing riders on Golden Gate Transit Bus who transferred to Muni. So they clearly saw that this will be a benefit to them. The pilot program is expected to last for 18 to 24 months. MTC has set aside funding that we will be fully reimbursed for any transfer credits that we offer under this program. Today's item is merely for you to recommend to the Board of Directors that we participate in this program. The program would roll out under Clipper 2.0, and MTC requested that the governing boards of all the different participating transit agencies ratify their participation by April 1st. I think we're in the forefront of that. So with your recommendation to the board tomorrow and contingent on the board's approval, we will be in great shape for that April 1st cutoff date. With that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. Director Maston.
Yeah. Excuse me. So I think this is a wonderful program and hopefully long overdue, so congratulations to all the participants. On page 43, excuse me, it states that during the pilot program, period of 2 years, participating agencies would experience no drop in fare revenue, thanks to MTC, which is allocated $11 million. But what that means, I think, is that at today's dollars, there could be a fare reduction of about $5 million a year divided up between 22 different agencies. Is that correct? Is that what I understand?
That's pretty good math.
Yeah. So I just wanted to be clear that there, at least in my mind, that there could be loss in fare revenue. Not huge, but something.
The counterpoint would be there may be a growth in ridership also, and that if someone gets the discount in one direction, we get the fare in the other direction. And so I think the intent is to, minimize the risk, and kudos to MTC for doing that. We would have brought this to you without that guarantee of funding, because we think very strongly that it's just good for the customer experience to do what we've been doing in Marin and Sonoma for decades, which is the local bus is free when you get off the regional bus, and going the other way, you get the discount. And so it basically takes what we've been doing in the North Bay and blows it up for the whole region. And so we're excited by this.
I agree. I think it's great.
And through the chair, one more comment is the 18-month check-in is to see how the funding allocations are being distributed. And if there's a need to revise it at that time, MTC will consider that. However, if the money is being spent in the way that they envision, it would go for the full 24 months.
Okay. Thank you.
So then I have to ask Ron, then what?
If you want my crystal ball, I think it would come back as a permanent program. I think it's going to be very well received. As I said a minute ago, it opens up new transfer possibilities that we don't have. Somebody from Alameda that wants to commute to the North Bay will now be able to take either the AC Transit Transbay bus or the WITA ferry over to San Francisco and then board our service to travel north, and they will get a credit across that. They do not presently get that credit on either of those two services.
MTC is famous for rolling out pilots and giving you money for a year or two, and then you're left quote holding the bag. But this is one where I think from a policy perspective, it's just good government.
Yeah, and usually, pilots are great because it usually means that you have some money, but not enough to actually implement everything you want. And but again, I was on both ends of that. I just wanted to make sure that if whatever we need to do is going forward, be prepared for that time out there in the future that we take care of that.
Ask the questions.
Please go ahead.
Maybe I'm ignorant. But is it going to be tracked by a Clipper card, or is it?
Yeah, Clipper card.
So do you have to have the Clipper card, or can you use it?
You have to have the Clipper card.
That's correct.
So it's another incentive to get a Clipper card, and you can have a Clipper card on your phone if you have a smartphone. They have a means-based fare program for Clipper also. So the reason's trying to encourage people. So with the means-based fare program, you get a 50% discount on your fare on top of this transfer credit.
Did you ever see the elimination of all other cards as just Clipper?
Well, philosophically, when I was way back in the day, a little kid, my parents had a Sears and Roebuck card, and they had a Montgomery Ward's card. And we got away from these single cards because people don't want to carry all that stuff. And so it became a card, like a Visa or a MasterCard. And so arguably, Clipper, as it evolves, what you want is to have a loyalty program. You buy 5 sandwiches, you get 1 free. So you want to have that, but you want to have a way to collect money easily. But arguably, people should be able to pay with what they already have in their wallet, whether it's on their phone or in their pocket, philosophically, because if you have something special, that's great for those that are regular customers, but someone visiting out of town, you don't want them running a card to go to Muir Woods. You want them to take transit as they go to wine country. And so making it easy for people, not just those on the inside, to buy your product is always a good business strategy. To make it difficult is hard, but you clearly want to have a loyalty program where you reward regular customers. And Clipper offers a venue to do that. Clipper 2.0 will accept open payments. So someone can tap their Visa card once this rolls out, which will help us tremendously on tourists. In Sausalito in the summertime, our ferry folks carry a lot of people that don't live in the Bay Area. If they could tap a credit card, it's a lot better. That having been said, the Clipper rollout has some things that we would like to see changed. Because if you're traveling with a family of 4, as a program, it's 1 tap per card, so your kids better have a card. But we'll work with MTC after they roll this out to modify that. Same thing with people that are in San Francisco that want to ride our bus to see the Golden Gate Bridge. The last couple of years coming out of the pandemic, we carry a lot more people. To see them bumble around with cash, it is painful. So Clipper 2.0 is great. Is it perfect? It'll get better each year.
So just talking about regional, connectivity, obviously none of this, or the spirit of none of this was captured in the mascot study, and showing what a significant piece Golden Gate Bridge does have, bringing people up the corridor and expanding regional connectivity.
It's all our fault. When we have our next mascots meeting, I will ask a couple of my colleagues at sister agencies to, perhaps revisit the conversations they've had with some folks in Sacramento.
And how about acknowledging the fact that the ferry is regional transportation as well?
Yeah, we get no credit for that ferry service. And we had some good anecdotes. I talked about a long time smart board member that just left that would always talk about the timing of the ferry. And I'd say, well, we're not going to get any TDA money from that city, because we're taking a haircut. And so not only for our bus, but, there's no benefit in some people's eyes. MTC sees it differently. They see that there is a benefit. But I'll talk about that issue under the GM report tomorrow with respect to Sonoma County transit assistance. Actually, state transit assistance for Sonoma County benefits.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I was thinking as you were talking about incentives, Dennis, what about green stamps or illegal?
You'd go out by the farmer's market in Alamany where the green stamps building was, and you'd have your books of stamps, and you get some little stamp for your TV.
Were there orange stamps as well?
But the green stamp was the big one. And there's also blue chip stamps.
Blue chip.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
We've come a long way. Any public comment on this particular app?
There's no public comment.
And anything else, Ron?
Not on this one.
You're just looking for, okay. So again, I'm looking for a motion to approve the establishment of the pilot program as we had discussed. We have a motion and a second, and with that, a voice vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those, anyone opposed, please say no. Hearing no opposition, that does pass unanimously. Thank you very much, Ron. Moving on to item 7, which is to approve the 3-year fare increase. The other public hearing we had for the San Francisco Special Event Ferry Service. Ron, take away.
Thank you, Chair Revitt. This item before you requested the Finance Committee recommend to the board approving a 3-year fare increase on Larkspur to San Francisco Special Event Ferry Service. It would apply to any and all special event ferries from to San Francisco from Larkspur. Currently, the Chase Center service is suspended. If we were to resume that service, it would fall under the umbrella of this action. Obviously, the signature special event service is our service to the Giants game. And this item before you requests adoption before April 1st with the start of the home season for the Giants. The item also, because it is a major fare change under our rules of the board and our Title VI policies, staff conducted a Title VI analysis, which is attached to this item, and found that there was no disparate burden on low-income people, nor no disproportionate burden on minority riders. So the item before you contemplates 3 one-year fare increases starting on April 1st of 2025, continuing until April 1st of 2027, and that would remain in effect until March 30th of 2028. The action before you is intended to balance expenses and revenues for special event service, which per rules of the board are expected to recover as much of their expenses as possible. As I noted in our previous presentation, last year we did very well on Giants Ferry special event service. We were about 96% fare recovery. So this action maintains that balance moving forward. Again, with the caveat that if things do not come together as we had forecast, we would come back to the board to amend this fare policy. We did go through a full public process for this item. We had a public hearing. We did not engender any public comment for this item. So considering that, we expect to generate approximately $200,000 in new revenues over the course of this 3-year program, which again would go to offset the expenses of the special event service. With that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ron. Director Park.
Yes, thank you. Not to be greedy, but if it doesn't quite pay the bills, why don't we raise it a little more?
So we don't know. Each year is different. I mean, last year the Giants did not help, but we had our best ridership since 2016, and so we still had a pretty high percentage. So the policy of the board is to recover, but it's about, and we think that this is about the right amount. But last year, if the Giants had done a little better, we could have carried even more people. They weren't really helping. Hope springs eternal. Today's opening day. They're on the road. So we look forward.
Best record in spring training.
So they had the best record in training. Anyway, so staff feels comfortable with this, but the staff report acknowledges that if we're seeing that we're missing the mark, that within this group we'll come back to you to say, hey, maybe we need to raise it more. So we do leave that door open, and we're very transparent about that in the staff report because we do want to about break even with this service.
Well, in the back of my mind, the Giants ferries seem to come up all the time, especially events ferries. And it seems to be a fairly consistent income stream. And personally, I'm not real optimistic that the money that's been flowing to all of the organizations that we represent is going to stay.
Correct.
And so to implement a program that's fairly easy to implement, I mean, it's almost has a standard group of people that do it. I mean, I don't ride the Giants ferry, so I'm not part of that group, but it seems a little bit counterintuitive to put together a fare program, even if it's just a little bit that doesn't make it.
Yeah.
Every little bit.
Philosophically, though, whatever you pick won't be right. It'll be off a little bit. We are raising it 50 cents each way, so that's $1 per game per passenger. So that's each year. So it does raise revenues. We think it's about the sweet spot. We did not ask for more. Today you could not approve more since we did not have a public process that went more. But we felt it was important, and kudos to Ron and Jennifer for saying in the staff report, let's leave open the opportunity that, hey, if this year doesn't go well, we'll come back to you in the fall to say, let's do it another public process to say that this 3-year plan will go up.
And I actually, I'm like whoever did the numbers there. I actually did the numbers of how much it would take me how much it would cost for me to take my family if I had 4, 2 kids. And it sounds like a lot of money, but based on what people are spending for entertainment, it really isn't a big ad to take the ferry.
Understood.
But you won't see me on the ferries.
You don't know how many department price I can go through, though.
There you go.
I'm sorry, Director Hernandez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks so much for your report. And I wanted to say thank you also for the exhaustive public comment process. I know that you and your team, district secretary, and there's so many folks involved in that, but it's important to have feedback from the community. So thank you for always going through that process. No comments this time. Actually, you said there were two positive comments on the previous item, but no comments on this one. So
That's correct.
Despite the fact that we're not getting, stampedes of people weighing in, it's important to have that available. I wanted to ask you, you mentioned that Chase might be enveloped under this item as well.
That's correct.
Okay. Do we have any information about, or do we have any sort of anticipation of what is going to come in terms of Chase activity? I know there's a WNBA team that's debuting in May. And I know that there's a full schedule of concerts. I mean, what kinds of income, or how do you think Chase is going to play into?
I'll address that because it's more operational than planning in nature. Regional Measure 3, which everyone voted to pass, included money to build a float right across the street from the Chase Center. So it'd be similar to our Giants ballpark. We just get off the boat, and it's closer than any parking spot to walk inside. That project has not commenced yet. And so when the Warriors moved to Chase Center, the Bridge District and WEDA partnered, and they had a float. We provided the money. We drove some piles, put a float in where we could with available space in the water for the port. And it's kind of far. And it's not a great walk at night, especially like last night if there was a game or a concert, because it was drizzling out, it's dark, and it's less than ideal. When they opened there, we did do special event service. And to Director Parr's point, we couldn't price it high enough to cover the cost because there wasn't that much ridership at that juncture. The Warriors, though, had a base that was primarily East Bay that's evolved over time. Their current logo has the other bridge on it. Maybe that'll change someday. It's become more San Francisco branded. But until that float is built, we're kind of in a holding pattern because it's not a great walk and we don't have a built-in fan base that was huge. But we did do some service, but this will cover that. So any special event in the city, if they're, for the America's Cup race, they had a temporary stadium they erected on the waterfront at concerts. Remember Jim Swindler saying, what's this Imagine Dragons? And we sold out boats because the concert sold out. And so there's venues that pop up, things in the city. So this covers any of those. But it's important to know that Regional Measure 3 included money for that float. The port in WEDA got a grant as part of the infra that will allow them to build that float. When that float is up, we see opportunities not just for special event service, but maybe commute service from Marin, because a lot of bioscience and medical has gone in that neighborhood. And it's a really hard place to get in and out of in a car. There's like 2 roads in. And so but if you have to walk several blocks and it's dark and doesn't feel good, that's not great. But if you're right across the street from Chase, that feels positive. And so when that opens, we'll be looking into that. And related to that, Ron is leading the effort to expand the 42 trips a day out of Larkspur. Among other things, we're not just envisioning perhaps just to the ferry building, but perhaps to that Chase landing when it's built. We want to have the flexibility to do that. So right now it doesn't work well for us in our customer base. But, we're eyeing it, and we disclosed in the Larkspur notice of preparation and the open houses we had to say, we may be going on that new float when it opens up. And folks seem pretty excited by that.
What's the anticipated delivery date for that?
I'll look at it. Mike, do we have a date from WEDA?
No, not yet. They don't have a project date.
But we'll keep you appraised of that because it's exciting for the growth of our ferry business. Anything that others do, we collaborate and coordinate with, and this is a huge one for us. The port and we will own the float, but we don't own the float at the ballpark for the Giants, and we pay a little fee every time a boat ties up, and it works, and that helps offset the maintenance cost of it, and it's all fair, and those arrangements have been worked out. This would be something similar there.
Thank you. Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Director Mass.
Going back to Director Parr's comments, an odd contrast to our fare is that our one-way fare is barely more than a beer at the park.
I didn't know that.
And the lines for beer are a hell of a lot longer than our ferry lines.
$17 per beer.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate the comment. Have we ever, as you were talking, obviously the Chase Center is what, a half to a third of the capacity of the ballpark, so your demographics are going to change.
It really matters. Even for the Giants ballpark, it's by event. Some events draw more bigger crowds than others. So customers will let us know. They'll start asking, are you running a ferry for this event for non-baseball? And marketing will kind of keep tabs on it, and then we'll make an assessment. Yeah, we think there's enough interest, or no. You know, if no one reaches out asking about it in an event at the Oracle, we don't run. But a lot of the events draw very well. I dare say that when the Grateful Dead, or whatever band was played, our phones lit up saying, are you running a ferry boat? So I think that speaks to the demographics, perhaps, of Marin County.
Bad Bunny didn't do so well.
Yeah, Bad Bunny. I was shocked.
But Bad Bunny did feed the entire crew at Soul Food in San Rafael.
I have to say how impressed I am and how agile we are. You know, we don't see that part, but thank you for all the ones that are involved in that.
And thank you, Director Parr. That really goes to our operating folks and our marketing folks. You know, our ferry team, our bus team, our bridge team, and then the marketing team to get the word out as we do different things. Does work very, very well. Kudos to all the staff that's involved in that.
And I was going to say too, just in terms of this item, like Director Parr, I think that this one really is about leisure travel, recreational travel, not travel dependent folks having a public hearing in the future more often. If the numbers change or need to change, I'd be more than happy to go down that path and just be much more nimble with this one to make sure that we're as close to that 100% figure as possible. I think that would be great.
Maybe perhaps the next public hearing will be to set a fare that's tied to the price of beer at the ballpark.
You can sell a lot more for $1 cheaper in an event. All right, I appreciate that. I also was thinking, and I know that our ferries, we have different size ferries, but I mean,
we should try.
It'd be great if there was something that was, much smaller with a much smaller overhead that can actually service like a Chase Center type arrangement.
You know, we're a replacement ferry fleet. We're going to standardize it because from a maintenance operation and financial perspective, it's much more cost effective. The new vessels, though, will burn significantly less fuel. And so they'll be cheaper to operate. But there's a lot of benefit in having a standardized fleet. When we took over the Tiburon community service, people said, well, why don't you have a little 150 passenger boat? It's like, well, are you going to buy one for us? You know, we have to use the hand we're dealt, play the hand we're dealt. And so having a standardized fleet helps tremendously. And kudos to the ferry team. I'll let Mike jump in.
Yeah, I just want to clarify. They're going to call it the Mission Bay terminal or float. So that's what they're going to call it for WIDA. And then they're also, they don't have a updated delivery date for the project on the website. I just want to circle back on that.
And I think there's great opportunity for commute business.
Yeah.
Although having a daughter who works down there, I think there's also a lot of different hours of work because it's healthcare related, or a lot of it is. They just don't seem to have the standard 9 to 5, although customers would. So with that, before we continue to bash this, is there any public comment on this particular item?
There's no public comment.
So again, I'll look for a motion to approve the 3-year fare increase for the Larkspur Special Event Ferry.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and with that, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Please say no. Hearing no opposition, that does pass unanimously. Thank you, Ron. Moving on to receive the independent auditor's communication with those charged with governance and engagement letter for the annual financial audit and the single audit for the year ending June 30th, as submitted by Eide Bailey, LLP, our own Cody Smith.
Hello. Excuse me. Good morning, Chair Rabbit, directors of the board. My name is Cody Smith. I'm the director of accounting at the Bridge. I'm here to present the engagement letter for the external financial statement audit for fiscal year 25 and our single audit. It also includes our non-test services that we get from Eide Bailey as well. One other thing is the letter of government, letter of communication charge to the governments. That's you guys. It just goes over the roles and responsibilities of the district and Bailey, and also the limits of the audit. Again, it's an audit, it's sample-based, and they're not going through everything. So they just lay out those specifics within the letters to you guys. So that being said, Bailey is in a third year of a 3-year contract with 2 1-year options. We do our interim audit. Actually, we just got done last week. Went very smoothly. We will do another single audit portion in June or July, and then we'll do the final audit in the fall. And then I'll be back with you guys, wintertime, November, Thanksgiving-ish, to present the findings of the external audit. And then January will be the single audit as well. And then for those that are familiar with the term single audit, that just references the grants, federal grants audit that we do for all the grant money that we receive. So, that being said, I also just would be remiss and never miss an opportunity to just give a shout out to my team, the accounting team. They do a great job. I'm just the face of them, but they're a very dedicated group. They love being in the district. I love being their boss. And so I just want to give them. They do a great job. And also I work with a lot of people here as well and their teams. So it's definitely a team effort with the audit. So I just it's accounting is the lead, but there's a lot of departments also helping us out, which is wonderful. So with that, any questions or concerns?
Cody, thank you, and thank you to the team as well. And we look forward to yet another clean audit when it comes time. Is there any significant changes this year over year in the engagement letter from previous years, or nothing?
No, nothing.
The statutory changes that change anything that we're going to be looking at or doing?
No, there's the standard fare, which is the new GASBs that are implementing this year. But again, we're actually luckily ahead of the curve because we've been doing one of the GASBs that's being implemented this year is something the district's been doing for quite some time. So it's related to compensated absences. But other than that, besides that type of nomenclature, nothing of the ordinary.
Okay, great. Is there any public comment?
There's no public comment.
Any other final questions for Cody before we take a motion? We'll look for a motion then to receive the independent auditor's communication. We have a motion and a second. And with that, we'll do a voice vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Is there anyone opposed? Please say no. Hearing no opposition, that does pass unanimously. Thank you, Cody.
Thank you.
Moving on then to our last action item of the day, which is to approve the establishment of a new capital project, 2546, the Larkspur Ferry Terminal Service Building Roof Rehab. In the fiscal year 24-25 Ferry Division capital budget, and we have our district engineer, John Everly, to give us a brief presentation on this one.
Very good. Yes. Good morning. Thank you. So we're recommending moving a project into this fiscal year's Ferry Division capital budget. This would be the Larkspur Ferry Terminal Service Building Roof Rehabilitation Project with a budget of $800,000 to be 100% funded with Golden Gate Bridge Highway and Transportation District funds. So we have a project that was in the 10-year plan to do a rehabilitation of this Larkspur service building. Over the past winter, the rains have infiltrated the roof system. The roof system was the original roof system from the 1970s when the structure was built. We would like to get a jump on this project rather than waiting for the fiscal year to start so we could complete the design and do the construction before next winter rains come and additional damage may occur in the building. So it's recommended that we establish this project and put it in this fiscal year's budget. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
I'll look to my colleagues. Director Park.
I have a question. When I was reading through these, and I hope I get both of them. There seem to be 2 roofing projects. One is at the Dispatch and Fuel Island. The other one is this one at the Larkspur Ferry Terminal. I don't notice, and maybe I just missed it, that there's a contractor for the second one for the Ferry Division.
So the Ferry Division, this project has not been established yet. So this is establishing a project with an estimated budget that was developed by staff. The first one, that project went out to bid.
Right, and I noticed there was a little issue with one of the contractors, so I just wanted to make sure that you don't. I'm sure you won't. You guys do a great job, but it just seemed interesting that there were 2 roof projects. Although that happens with our houses too, you know. They're all built at the same time. So they all go away at the same time. All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Any other questions on our, I like the brains infiltrating as opposed to leak. Sounds impressive. I'll look for, is there any public comment on this one?
There's no public comment.
No public comment. With that, I'll look for a motion.
So moved. Second.
A motion and a second to move this project into this year's fiscal or ferry division capital budget. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is there anyone opposed? Hearing no opposition, that does pass unanimously. Thank you, John. Moving on to some of our status reports. The first one is the status report on the fiscal year 24-25 budget. Jennifer.
All right, I'll make these short. The status report, we kind of went over the quarterly last month, but if you turn to page 85 in your packet, as you can see, we are, as Joe I would say, making up the gap as we start going through 6-7 months, evening out. Last month, your estimated shortfall after line 3 was 12.8. We're bringing it down to 8.9, so the revenues and expenses are evening themselves out. And again, we have added that unrealized market gain just because that's what is on paper. So we were 5.8 million last month for that unrealized gain, 7.9. So that fluctuates every month, as you know, because it's on paper what our gains are. But at the end of the day, coming from a budget of 36 million in a shortfall, bringing it down to 16.8 in the right direction. So happy to take any questions if you have.
Any questions from my colleagues? Being done, why don't you roll ahead and we'll make sure we take public comment.
So item 11, as you know, is our monthly review. I'm surprised. Usually I get at least one email from this committee. But if you look just in general at page 95 on the month to months, we are down in almost every operating section, and that is because we had a leap year last year. So that's always our favorite thing is that, for instance, in Bridge, we were about 38,000 down. It's about 42,000 a day, so one less day than last year. That's the only reason why. Other than that, I think actually we're tracking in the right direction in all our operations. Happy to take any questions.
Any questions? Just keep going.
Okay. And then item 12, still, as I say, still positive, and we get to the current year, actual year to date. Last year at this time, we were 5.4 in the black, and now we are 3.3, so we're still positive, closing that gap again, but good news.
Any questions? And with that, was there any public comment on the last couple items?
There's no public comment.
There's no public comment. And thank you so much, Jennifer. Is there public comment for this body at all?
There isn't any public comment for this body at all.
Which is fine. So that means that we're at item 14, which is adjournment. Taking a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Hearing no opposition. We are adjourned. Next time. Thank you all.